Good morning. Let's try something. I'd like everyone to close their eyes for about half a minute and just focus on listening. So imagine a landscape. Dark, windy, extremely cold. Above in the night sky, you see greens and purples and reds shimmering. And all around you, you hear a clicking sound. The sound almost of snapping branches. Sounds frightening. Okay, now open your eyes. So what if I told you those sounds were from reindeer? Reindeer live in this harsh environment. That clicking sound is one of the unique adaptations that they have. Reindeer, also known as caribou. The clicking sound is from a tendon in their ankle that snaps when they walk. It allows them to find and keep track of each other in darkness. Extremely useful when you're above the Arctic Circle in the middle of winter. Reindeer also have other interesting adaptations for their life on the Arctic. They can see ultraviolet light, allowing them to better find lichens on trees that they forage for. This also allows them to not experience snow blindness when the sun comes out and there's bright white snow on the ground. Reindeer have hooves that can spread out, allowing them to more easily walk on snow. And they have extra blood vessels in their nose that warm the cold air when they breathe in, possibly giving some truth to Rudolph's red nose. So I'm a professor of environmental science at the University of New Hampshire. I study the world by using pictures and images taken by drones, planes, and Earth-observing satellites to better understand our changing planet. I also love sound. I compose electronic music as a hobby, and I record sounds wherever I go in the world, from the tropics to the tundra. This clicking sound, this rhythmic of reindeer walking, is what led me on a new path of how I practice science, one that listens as much as it measures. My work in the Arctic has focused on understanding the warming and changing in that area. And the transformations are happening fast. Vegetation communities are shifting. Human infrastructure is spreading out across the landscape. Over the past decade, we've used drones to document this change. Every year we go back at the same time of the year, fly drones again and again, often in the summer when it's beautiful there. We've been able to see vegetation shifts, permafrost thaw, the emergence of thaw ponds, wetlands, and this is important because those wetlands emit methane, a potent greenhouse gas. These changes on the landscape also affect how reindeer can move. Reindeer are migratory animals moving between summer and winter grounds. Alongside the reindeer are the Sami, an indigenous people spanning the northern regions of Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Russia. They are considered the only indigenous people in Western Europe. The reindeer to the Sami are what the buffalo were to the North American plains indigenous peoples, a complete source of sustenance, material goods, and cultural meaning. For the Sami, it includes outfits with sinew stitches, hides on their tents, blood sausages, and even draft animals that pulled sleds of families across the Arctic. No part of the reindeer went unused. Reindeers are being challenged. Their migratory routes are shifting, and their grazing lands are changing. And with these changes and possible disappearance of the reindeer, so too goes everything that the Sami have built their culture around. Their economy, their food, and their cultural meaning. So up to a few years ago, I rarely worked with the Sami. The Sami have been experiencing other pressures. Discrimination, roads and fences cutting across their land, and heightened impacts or scrutiny of government regulations telling them how they can manage their herds. Even the Chernobyl disaster in 1986, which some people in this room might remember, impacted the Sami. They had to destroy most of their herds for fear of radiation. So in the past, my experience was I would call a village elder, ask if there were reindeer in an area that I was going to fly my drones, so as to not disturb the reindeer. A few years ago, as part of a grant we started to work with the Sami more closely and got to go to northern Sweden in the winter. This was a grant that was supposed to develop research projects with graduate students to work in the Arctic with communities, and hopefully with indigenous communities like the Sami. One group of students that I worked with, a cohort, wanted to study reindeer migration with just the pressures I described. And this took us to Alaska during the winter for a workshop, and eventually to northern Sweden in the dead of winter. Now, my research group likes to have a saying: work in cool places with cool people on cool projects. And by cool, I mean cold. And when I mean cold, I mean brutally cold. So in northern Sweden, Lapland, above the Arctic Circle in winter, it's brutally cold. Temperatures easily drop to 40 degrees below zero. The wind is relentless. Exposed skin freezes quite quickly. And the sun doesn't rise for many, many days. We started to have contact with a Sami leader through Zoom meetings, and Nicholas Laba invited us to come visit him. We wanted to study the herding migration issues that he was facing. So we met Nicholas, taking him up on this kind offer, traveling there in the dead of winter, living in one room, 8 scientists, heated by a wood stove, no electricity, and a diet mainly of reindeer. There's nothing like living in close quarters with a drastic dietary shift, 1 outhouse, for the ultimate team bonding experience. So this is us staying there. Some of you who know me might know that I like to take naps, and you can see me crashed out there finding a little bit of room for myself. So one day, we traveled out onto the Arctic tundra to find a reindeer herd. We rode in snowmobiles and sledges for hours on end through whiteout conditions. The weather got so severe that even the Sami leaders suggested we turn back. That night, we had dinner in a lavvu. It's a wooden teepee-like structure, and we had a dinner of Arctic char, reindeer, and Sami flatbread. It was delicious. When we met with the Sami leaders, we thought we knew what they needed. We thought we understood the pressures that they were experiencing. But we were wrong. Or maybe we were only half right. And that's almost as bad because you stop listening before you've heard anything. It turns out the Sami had drones, nice drones, thermal drones that could actually look at heat signatures of the reindeer and find them. In the 1980s, they had built their own paragliders to fly high above and locate reindeer. They had GPS collars on many of their reindeer, allowing them to actually track them with their cell phones. They used ATVs and motorbikes and even helicopters to access remote areas. They had been doing science. They had been asking and answering many of the same questions that I would as a scientist. And they had decades of observational data. What they wanted from us was specific. They wanted us to use our remote sensing capabilities to find rainfall events on bare frozen ground, which creates a layer of ice that blocks the reindeer's ability to access lichens. They wanted to work with us to use remote sensing to estimate lichen quality, snow depth, snow type, land cover change, vegetation shifts, and the encroachment of roads and fences on their landscape that were slowly creeping. We're working on something that we could not do alone. And this is quite powerful. We're building models that weave their traditional ecological knowledge with my understanding of remote sensing, geospatial data sets, and maps. We're also hoping to develop educational programs for children, both in the United States and Sweden. What child wouldn't want to learn about reindeer? They are quite fascinating. There's a name for this type of research: convergent research. I didn't come across it through a textbook, but I came across it by having my assumptions slowly dismantled in a small room in Lapland with winter darkness outside. Convergent research combines community knowledge, science, and individual-based experience or lived experience to answer questions no discipline could do alone. It also comes down to one thing that I feel in my heart, is that it comes down to listening to these communities that have information and treating it as data and not just background noise. Indigenous communities have knowledge that's been passed down through generations, that's place-based and essentially irreplaceable. Remote sensing doesn't replace this traditional indigenous knowledge. They both enhance each other. And it has changed so much about how I do my science. I listen now before I design. I ask before I measure. I continue to foster long-term collaborations, which are so important. And I also realize that science and all good work takes time. And so I'm giving myself more time to do that. So one night, a young Sami reindeer herder sang a yoke. This is a traditional song, unique to the individual and often improvised. It is considered one of Europe's oldest living vocal traditions. We were asked not to record it, and respectfully, I did not. Previously, it had been suppressed by churches and governments, but now is a symbol of Sami cultural pride and even revival. It was moving and emotional, even though I did not understand a single word. It fascinates me how important sound is to both reindeer and humans. So perhaps it's fitting that it was on a dark morning when I heard the clicking of reindeer as they walked by that set me on a new path, a path where science listens, learns, and walks beside the communities and the environments it seeks to understand. Thank you.